Hello, I'm Joan Capurro, and it's my pleasure to host this segment of the Marin Women's Hall of Fame show. It is difficult to imagine Marin County without the work of countless women shaping the life, culture, mores, and landscape of Marin County, from a Frank Lloyd Wright designed civic center to high-quality public schools, artworks downtown in San Rafael, vast areas of open space, innovative businesses, and a robust network of nonprofits. Women have improved the lives of many in Marin County. And Marin women's contributions go beyond our county. Honorees have been in space, to the Arctic, created social changing films, served in the U.S. Senate, and helped combine holistic medicine with Western medical practices. Since 1987, the Hall of Fame has inducted over 125 Marin women of distinction. And today, it's my pleasure to introduce Ann Kennedy, who was inducted in 2013 for her work as a founder of the Hall of Fame. Welcome, Ann.
Thank you, Joan. It's nice to be here.
Well, and one of the first questions I want to ask you about is, you're from a big family, from a small town in Missouri, as my grandparents were, and the only girl with 6 brothers. What impact did your family and small town experience have on you?
Well, being from a large family was fun, mostly. And one of my sister-in-laws said once, you know, you all have a clan mentality. And I thought, well, not sure what that means to some people, but to me it meant we had each other's back.
Right.
And that was always important. I always knew there was somebody there to support me. And the other thing about being from a small town is we were always outside. Because, you know, we just always got to play, you know, and if it's cold, Mom said, bundle up, go outside.
Yeah.
Whatever, you know, go swimming, whatever it was. So we were lucky in that respect because kids don't get that so much now.
No. And we had a very similar thing. And clan is right. You have each other's back.
Well, we spent a summers in even a smaller town where my grandmother was. And she was one of the first single moms, having my dad in 1906, but her husband died right before he was born.
Oh, my goodness.
And so she went to college and became a teacher. So I had a lot of strong women there.
You did have good ones to follow there.
Yes, I did.
Well, that's, again, you had a very strong mother. But
yes.
What difference did that make in your life? How did you follow her? You went to college, that's one.
Well, one of the things, I mean, my mom raised 7 kids with $125 a week. You know, and
we do that at lunch today.
And right there, you know, that shows you that she had to do a lot of thinking. But the one good thing about my parents is my dad was always home every day at 4:15 after work, and every day we ate at 4:20.
Oh.
And you know, Mom used to say, you know, the other guys go out to drink, but Dad came home every single day.
Wonderful.
And we were lucky. That is, you know, these days, that's really lucky. But I remember specifically my mom took me aside once when I was 16 and sat me down in front of the mirror in my room. And I was having a kind of a hard time at school. And she said, you look in that mirror. You see Ann Kennedy, and you are important. And don't forget it.
Good for her.
And I think, I didn't know at the time, but as time went on, that was an important thing to hear.
Impacted you. It gave you power.
It did, yes. So.
But she may not have known at that time.
I don't think she knew, but it certainly made me feel good.
and your parents didn't expect you to go to college, is that right? But you did, and 3 of your brothers followed you. So.
Yeah, no, you know, no one had been to college. My mom graduated from high school, Dad also, but, you know, he had some courses. He was a union man, so, you know, he was mostly dealing with that. Even though he worked in a factory, he was the union steward, so he was, you know, he had a lot to do. But Fortunately, my best friend, who went to college right after high school, said, come on, you've got to go.
Right, that's great.
And so, I did, and she was right. And what happened with that is it's kind of started a ripple effect in that my next youngest brother, he went to college, and then it was just expected that my youngest brother would go to college.
Great.
And then after that, my brother, who had been in Vietnam, he came home, and then he decided he needed to go to college too. So
you started it, though.
yeah, I started it,
You were the leader.
And they all give me credit.
and that's great. And don't you think it also shows how important, as great as it is to have a family like you had, to have good friends?
Yes.
Friends are important.
Yes. And when I look at the college, I just think about the impact is now I have a nephew who's a doctor. I have a niece who's a marine biologist, and I have another niece who's starting in law school. So it wasn't just affected me and my brothers, it's moving on.
No, it's a total blessing. Good
Yeah,
for you.
really.
Let's see. After teaching 7th and 8th graders for several years, you made a major career change. So tell us how that came about.
Well, I love teaching, but even though as young as I was, it wore me out. Every day I would come home exhausted. I was like 22. And I went back to Missouri for a while, and just for a year, I think even. But, when they say you can't go home again, it's kind of true, especially when you've been to California, though.
Right.
And,
Big difference.
the women's movement was really, getting underway in a big way. And I needed to be where things were happening, and it wasn't Missouri. So I came back out, and then I moved to San Rafael, where my friend from college was, and then my brothers started following me out here. And then it was kind of ironic, the thing that changed my path was I didn't want to teach anymore. I knew that. My brother was the accountant for Women's Way, and you might remember Women's Way.
Yes.
It was a very important organization for many years, and he hired me to be a bookkeeper there. So, I don't know, just for people who don't know about Women's Way, it was providing information and referral was a big thing. Lots of people called every day. And they had a legal clinic and a therapy referral and women's groups, and they were starting some employment services for women. So, and also when I was there, they did the first needs assessment report on women at the time. So Women's Way was a part of that. But, but nothing. It was a great organization.
well, I think it's also wonderful because I think about you leading your brothers to college, and now your brother hires you.
Yes.
It all comes around. You can't give enough away to anybody.
That's true.
Well, and then that led you to the YWCA.
Yes. At the same time that I was when I moved to San Rafael, working with Women's Way, and then also I fell in love with a woman who was a lawyer, and we started a law practice.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the first things we did, which is kind of what moved me on to a new career, was we did a sex discrimination case. And it went on for 10 years, number one. We went to federal court, and the judge was an appointment of Nixon. I think he knew he was going to rule against us way before we ever walked in the door. But regardless, he wanted to hear the story of our client, who had been on a square rigger from Florida to California, so she had a lot of experience. Anyway, she had applied for a job at California on the Balclutha in San Francisco, but she didn't get the job. And what happened was we lost it. Federal court, we appealed it, we lost, we won, we went back and forth. 10 years later, we won the case. But I tell you,
stick to it.
We did stick to it.
It will happen.
But I tell you, the discrimination that I saw, in the courts was amazing.
I think there's some of that still goes
Yeah,
on, but
I
it's
think
much
so.
better.
Yeah, I think so too.
With the YWCA, when you went to work for them, you were there 20 years.
Yes.
So
yes.
Tell us about some of those experiences, and then how it came into San Francisco and Marin together instead of just Marin.
That's true. I started in Marin. Well, the interesting thing when a Woman's Way was was going to close, and that's kind of when I came out of my bookkeeping closet and said, wait a minute, you can't close this organization, and that's what I meant. That's what I meant. Bonnie Huff, who was another founder, and she and I, the board said, okay, we'll give you 30 days to find a new board of directors to take over Women's Way, or we're closing it. So Bonnie and I worked day and night for 30 days, found a new board. Fortunately, but still, it was a time, as you well know, when the county was suing for the Buck Trust.
Oh yeah.
So there was all kinds.
They were the front runner.
There was all kinds of funding issues, and Women's Way got lost in the shuffle. So, what Bonnie and I did was we looked to the YWCA, and who were trying to start programs up again in Marin. They'd had many programs over the years, but they didn't have any at the time. So we went to the YWCA and asked if they would take on these important services for women, like the legal clinic, the therapy referral.
Because they weren't doing that at that time.
They weren't doing anything. Okay. They only had a secretary answering phones for the other women's service agencies.
Oh, okay.
So that really got Bonnie and I then became the co-directors of the YWCA in Marin.
Well, no wonder it's a success.
Yeah. Well, it was a fun time. It was a hard time, but it was challenging. But it was great for us.
But you really grew.
And we became good friends through the process. So, yeah.
Well, and you were the executive director, or were you co-executive director?
Well, when at first Bonnie and I were the co-directors for the Marin Center. The YWCA was the YWCA of San Francisco and Marin.
Okay.
And we were the co-directors for that. And what was important about the YWCA, and I didn't know at the time, was their public policy stands on reproductive freedom. They had stands on discrimination against women in the workplace, fair housing, maternity leave, affordable child care. All these things that were important to me.
Right.
And they had a public policy stand on all these issues. So the YWCA was the natural transition for Women's Way services and for Bonnie and I to move on. And working at the YWCA, one of the things was it gave us a lot of freedom to do a lot of other things we wanted to do in the county.
Well, you were pioneers, really. Both of you, I think, for like you say, Marin.
Yes. Yeah. We were.
Well, what particular accomplishments are you proud of in the YWCA when you look back on those? In your whole 20 years for them.
Yeah, that was. There's a few things I'm really proud of, but the first thing I want to say is the staff. I was so proud of the people that I worked with. I always tried to hire people smarter than me.
Right. I learned that a long time ago.
Who had talents that I didn't have. That's right. And but because of those people, though, I was able to take leadership positions. By this point, there was a point then when Bonnie started law school. So then we weren't co-directors anymore. She was going to do many great things.
Right.
And I was able then to take leadership roles in different things in the Marin. For example, one of the big ones was the Marin Services Coalition, which was a group of women from MAWS, Marin Youth Women's Services, Rape Crisis, Marin Services for Women, Commission on the Status of Women. People were there, and and then at that time too, Bonnie and I were able. She came back. I mean, she was still always involved. We were able to do the Hall of Fame, and put in the time that was necessary because we had good people. I had good people.
That's great, you started that.
Back home. I thought
back home.
That was like home, though. The office was like home. So, but some of the programs I'm most proud of are some that are still going on today. Like I wrote the grant in 1983 for the older worker program. It was called then, and now I think it's called the 50+ program. That grant.
We don't like the older word.
No, but that was the word because the Private Industry Council, who gave out the funding.
I remember that.
Yeah, they. I can remember them too, smoking their pipes at the meetings
right.
at 7:30 a.m. But anyway, they, the government had set aside 5% of that funding for older workers. So we started that program, and then we also started the youth employment program with Private Industry money and Marin Community Foundation money. And we also started the first Marin County Mentoring Association. So we were training women who were at Fireman's Fund, Autodesk, Fair Isaac, and we had a trainer from Fireman's Fund who trained these women in how to be mentors for these at-risk kids, girls, I should say. But the interesting part about that was the women learned more, I think, than the girls. They didn't realize, they didn't know about the haves and the have-nots in Marin. So they learned a lot.
I can see that, because you and I have experienced that, I'm sure, the work we've done. But on the girls that they were training, can you remember any particular situation where somebody had done especially well or gone on to college, or did most of them?
Well, we had this one girl who, she came in with like this dog collar around her neck and all these things poking out, her hair all, purple and shaved on one side and everything. But, once you started talking to her, she was just like the sweetest thing. And then, of course, you lose track after years, but, during that time, we found out that she did go to College of Marin, and then she had a couple of babies, naturally, which is always, but it didn't seem to put her back. She went on to college, and now she's working, in an IT job. So it was like, this was a girl who wasn't going to go anywhere.
Might not have had anything had she not gone
might not
to
have.
your help. That's
but
fabulous.
there was so every time one of our kids, our mature workers, got a job, we were always so happy in the office. It was just like everybody knew everyone who had a challenge.
And you don't always know all the great successes you've done with them too, as they go out, but you know what
You
happens.
don't. I can remember, though, one of my staff people saying, one of the girls, she went to their house, and the girl was trying to decide what to wear to an interview. And so there was a lot of kids in the family, so they sat around in a circle with the mom, and everybody kept taking things off and putting them on until they finally found the right outfit for her to go to the interview in.
That's fabulous.
Yeah.
I don't know, what we would do without the YWCA.
Yeah, we were, like I said, we were lucky to be able to really create the programs that were needed in Marin at the time.
Well, and then, and on top of that, by working, thank you and all the women that worked to put the Marin Women's Hall of Fame together.
Yes, thank you.
Because that's kind of just something that will follow those young ladies down the road as they do more for their community and for other women. So could you tell us a little bit how that launch happened and maybe who was involved and
well,
some of the difficulties?
The Hall of Fame, when Bonnie and I were working together as co-directors, this is when the idea emerged. And I think it was Bonnie who did the research to find out that that San Mateo, the Commission on the Status of Women and the board in San Mateo was also had started a Hall of Fame in about 1983. So we were fortunate that Bonnie's a good researcher anyway. Yes. But it's different then. You don't have the computer. You didn't have the computer then, so you were, the research was different.
You did real research.
Yeah, real research. But we got we had the idea, but then we got the, more information of how to get it started. Right. And then we started working with the Commission on the Status of Women. Oh, right. The chair of that commission at the time, and through that's how it blossomed. I mean, it wasn't something that we thought we could do on our own. No. Well, we'd never even planned an event.
But weren't there about 5 or 6 of you?
Yes, and so then as the commission got started, there was Ann Latta and then Pat Warren, who was the secretary for the commission, Nancy Nakai, Bonnie and myself, Rita Levy. We were the make sure I got everybody there. We were the main people who started the work.
And yeah, I remember hearing about it when I was working at another bank at the time, and I thought it was very exciting that you came up with doing that. And important, because I knew of a lot of women that had done a lot and made a huge difference.
I'm sure you
including
did.
Each one of you.
Which was interesting. I didn't know anybody because I didn't, I hadn't been from Marin.
Right.
And so I was just every year like the first year we must have had over 150 nominations. And I was just like, oh my God.
Very difficult to choose.
How are we going to deal with this? I had no idea the caliber of women in the county and the contributions they had made to make Marin County what it is today.
No,
and
that's fabulous.
I learned so much.
It was a large event, I think, the first one, as I remember.
Well, you know, the first
for
one.
women, I mean.
We had it at Dominican.
Right.
And it was a great event, but we sold out. We had, we didn't realize that how many people were going to be there. So we had to move. It was too small of a venue. But I remember that first night because one of the main things Mimi Farina sang that night, and it was just, I don't know, it sent chills down your spine to think about it. It was a wonderful event.
Whenever I hear them talk, the women talk about what they've done, all of you, it's so great to learn more about you. And I would like to have been part of that in the beginning because I can imagine what it felt like. But it's not slowed down, and in fact, I see it going a lot further and even growing more now. So I'm wondering what is the same now or different that you're proud of or happy about?
Well, I'm so happy that the YWCA has taken on the Woman's Way as their program. Because it's like...
It's a rightful place.
Yeah, and it's like full circle,
Yes.
I mean, when I think, okay, people tell me, this is a 25-year-old thing now.
Yes,
And I'm thinking,
I know.
25, that makes me like,
where'd those years go?
30 or something, right? But, the Hall of Fame has gone through it's gone through lots of different ways, lots of different things through the years, lots of changes, but it's still there.
Right.
And it's going to go on way after me and all the rest of the founders, and that I'm very proud of that.
Yeah, I've heard women say that, we're going to run out of women to honor.
Right.
I don't think that's even possible.
They said that in year 2, 3, 4,
Right.
5. The first 10 years, I remember them saying that every single time. And look at us.
I mean, there's 50 or 100 nominations usually every year.
Yeah.
So I don't think we've run out at all. And so I think that's a lot, to your credit and all the women that started us. We just thank you because it's great to be part of it now. And to encourage and mentor younger women, too.
Yes, I think it really is good for the youth coming up. I called a few people. I said, what do you remember most about the Hall of Fame, besides the event? I called my old staff people, and they said, mailing lists.
Mailing lists. Oh, that's too funny.
Because, we had a MAC at the Y. Commission had a PC. There was no talking to each other. Nobody had a database. Nobody even knew what the word database meant.
It was really the hard way.
Yeah. And then we have mailing lists from all over, duplicates. They just said, all I remember is sitting at the Y and looking at those mailing labels.
Yeah.
Trying to get rid of the duplicates.
That's a lot better now in that way.
But of course, they remembered the event too. But that was the first thing that they talked about.
What I find the most entertaining, if you will, is when I see the pictures of each woman who at a baby or when they were married or whatever, and how we've all changed. And that's kind of scary sometimes. You want to put in your best skin in this picture. That's what I did.
Well,
but I love that. I just love. It just it makes you almost want to cry. Does that when you read about what some women do and you think, I do nothing. I do nothing compared to them.
I know. I think, how do you do that? And with all those kids and with this, that.
I know.
It's amazing.
We're each given different talents.
Yes.
Well, okay, so the last thing I want to go into is that in your mid-20s, you came out as a lesbian. Do you have any advice for young people that may be struggling with their sexual identity?
Well, a little bit. Hopefully it'll be helpful. I was lucky because I had a very supportive family. And it wasn't so much that it was talked about, but it was just that, here's my girlfriend and let's have Thanksgiving, So, I was lucky. But what I would say to young people now is don't let it define who you are. You still need to define who you are, and you still need to follow your dreams, whatever they are, and hopefully your family and friends will be there for you. But, you know, tragically, there are some places in this country where that's just not going to happen.
No.
And, you know, you have to be
Some
realistic.
states are pretty rough.
Yeah, I came from
A
one.
lot of prejudice.
Yeah, and you've got to be realistic. But I think if young people find themselves trapped in a family that just can't accept them, the main thing you have to do is reach out. And, you know, it's like that new public service announcement when it says, you know, things will get better.
Right.
I believe that that's true now. Yes. And if there's nothing else, you know, young men can call the, you know, the national hotline for gay, lesbian, trans, bi people. And that's a great service that's out there. But most of all, I think live your life, and you love who you love, and try not to hurt the people you love.
Right,
and that's harder than it sounds sometimes.
Well, I like what you said about not defined.
Yes.
You know, we all need to do our best for each other,
right,
for our communities. That's really what it's got to be about. And not get hung up on whatever is different in any way on any of us.
Exactly.
And we
I
all
agree.
are different.
Right.
But, you know, just love one another. I think that would be, but I love that define each other. So
yeah.
You have been wonderful. You have done such a great service to the county and to San Francisco and to your son.
Yeah, yes, my son. I didn't even talk about him.
Well, he's good. You told me
good.
that.
He's there.
Well, thank you, Ann, for sharing your incredible story with us, and thank you, viewers, for tuning in. The Marin Women's Hall of Fame is a project of the YWCA of San Francisco and Marin. If you would like to learn more about the Hall of Fame and our honorees, please visit www.ywcasf-marin.org. Thank you.
Thank you.